This is a crusade. This is a holy war against the deep state.
Where are the dictators? Where are the strong men?
Donald Trump is our instrument for retribution.
I'm going to fight for Christians. I'm going to fight for white people.
They have the Great Reset. We have the Great Awakening.
And why shouldn't I root for Russia? Because I am.
I want to see these people go through misery because of their grooming against our children.
After the assailant entered the home asking, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" Those are the very same words used by the mob when they stormed the United States Capitol.
I did nothing wrong.
Welcome to a premium episode of the Did Nothing Wrong podcast, where we cut through the noise and help you make sense of the chaotic information space around us. I'm Griff Somke. It's been an eventful year at the Did Nothing Wrong pod. There's been a lot of changes, both internal and external. And one of the biggest drivers of those changes was our Person of the Year, a.k.a. the person who did the most nothing wrong. Now, before we announce the 2023 winner of this prestigious award, I want to talk about the criteria we're using to determine 2023's Did Nothing Wrong person who did the most nothing wrong. As we've stated many times on this program, our goal is to cut through the noise and help you make sense of the information environment around us. Therefore, the nominees for 2023's Did Nothing Wrong person who did the most nothing wrong are the people who made the information environment the most difficult to deal with. These are the worst of the people who create false narratives, who lie for a living, who make this podcast necessary. If not for them, we wouldn't be here. Needless to say, that applies to a lot of people out here in the information space. So let's run down some of the nominees and look back at the year that was, shall we? The first nominee is noted milkshake enjoyer Andy No, who managed to continue his streak of being pathetic and annoying by losing a lawsuit against Antifa. Andy wasn't thrilled with the result, as he told Fox News.
This civil case, which was filed in 2020, was, to me, me not giving up and just really wanting to stand up for press freedom in Portland, stand up for myself, and also to send a message that what happened to me was wrong and that we can unmask some of these persons of interest or suspects. And so the verdict delivery earlier this week was extremely disappointing.
We covered his failed lawsuit against Antifa in episode 89 with Jared Holt. Take a listen.
Yes, he's very angry that this case did not go his way. But like Jared said, people are so desperate for a false equivalency here that he will continue to exist out in the world and claim that the Antifa threat is looming. And I remember one of his posts recently that there was a train that was derailed. And he said something about how this is why I always warn about the potential for Antifa to derail the trains and what the damage that they could cause. And then somebody asked him, like, "Oh, are you saying Antifa was involved in this?" And he said, "Well, no, it's just a hypothetical." And then he deletes it, and that's who this guy is. Yeah, just dishonest and just the most disingenuous, quote unquote, journalist out there. But he's got, like you said, his audience, and he's got a large number of people who unfortunately take this guy seriously and will tell you, "Oh, he's the only journalist who's speaking truth on the Antifa thing." And it's like, okay.
Well, we didn't really talk about the lawsuit, but I think with everything we've said, it's maybe not a surprise he didn't win that thing. One might even say that he lost it, and pretty poorly, even though like some of the reporting that came out of that case, like the lawyers for the defendants were like, they were kind of being clowns too. Mm-hmm. And he still lost, which is like incredible to me. Yeah. He had nothing. Like that's the only way you lose that, if your like defense lawyer is just like clowning around and being like, "I am Antifa." Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, that's something that actually
you
got said.
You suck. You lost. You suck.
Nobody wants to. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You can say whatever the fuck you want on social media, but take it to court and then we'll see. And he did. And here we are.
We sat down with the guy that Andy Ngo is convinced is the leader of Antifa in Richmond, Virginia, activist Goad Gatsby, to discuss Andy's attempted presentation in that city and the civic response. This is from episode 101. So let's talk a little about Andy Ngo. He was in Richmond for a presentation.
Correction. He was in Henrico County.
Henrico County.
He planned to be in Richmond. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
At one point, yes.
Tried to go to Richmond, couldn't quite make that one happen. So he ended up in Henrico County because, like all well-meaning people, Richmond didn't especially want him. He couldn't find a venue. So he ends up outside of Richmond. And he was doing a presentation that, what was the point of all of this? I'm not quite clear what he was trying to accomplish being out there. What was his goal?
You know, I got to say there's two things that they could have been trying to do. The most obvious one is that they would just have a conference where they give out their ideas. But I think most likely the second thing would be they want to have a protest against them for the visual effect. They want to be the victim.
Right.
And I'm on the fence that it's the second thing because I looked at some of the footage of what was going on there. Why would they pick a downtown location that was close to the VCU campus, the Virginia Commonwealth campus, where a lot of the protests were happening?
Right.
And I feel that they just wanted a central location so they could have protesters to come at them. Oh, also there was a giant hurricane coming through, like Hurricane Ophelia was coming through Richmond at that time. So it definitely did not mobilize a lot of people.
Huh. So basically it looked like maybe it was a media stunt, that they were hopefully going to get some protesters, some people showing up, and they could film all of that and talk about how Andy's narrative is so dangerous. They can't allow him to speak. The left has to shut him down.
By the way, the magazine that I worked for, the publication, RVA Mag, got an email from, after we ran a story saying that he was going to be in there. They sent an email saying that, no, we had canceled on him because the organizers were deceptive about who was speaking. So once we found out who it was, we canceled on them. Now, this is according to an email that they sent to me. Now, Fox News Digital, the same organizers claim a different story.
Right.
So believe whatever you want to believe.
But one way or the other, they end up blaming you or pushing it in your direction. It seems to me that you are this boogeyman for them because you keep showing up and you show your face, and that's about the extent of it. Is there anything else?
Well, their argument against me is similar to the complaints against, say, Libs of TikTok, where I would say Andy Ngo is having an event at this location. You know, I'm doing this because they've already publicly stated somewhere, and I'm then elevating that to people who would follow me. So they are claiming that the people that would follow me would go out and attack them.
Huh.
Now, that's not what happened. But for Libs of TikTok, people do call in bomb threats. The people that watch Libs of TikTok videos and find out that Children's Hospital also do gender.
They do gender affirming surgery.
Yes, but yes, they do that, and then they call it a bomb threat.
And it's like clockwork with Libs of TikTok. Anytime they mention anything, it seems like within a day or two, that organization is seeing bomb threats. That organization is seeing threatening phone calls. And if you look at the comments on their Twitter feed, you'll see why. Because the people are just absolutely unhinged.
And as a joke, I don't write stochastic terrorists as my bio.
Yeah.
That's sort of the difference between me and them.
Right.
Well, and I don't have a hard time believing that if something like this did happen indirectly as a result of anything you're doing, I'm sure you would condemn it. I'm sure you would call out and say, don't do this. This is not who we are. This is not what we do. And Libs of TikTok does not. No matter how many times this keeps happening, and it's over a dozen at this point, there is no condemnation. There is no, we should be better than this. It's just, oh, that's not my fault, and on to the next.
Yep. They can't admit that they might have any culpability here. They can't admit that it's the people that listen to their stuff and it's the people that read their content that are doing this. There's no separation whatsoever. They know what's going to happen now when they post something online. They know that their fan base is going to go after whoever it is they just targeted. And it's targeting. Call it what it is. They're targeting people now.
And in my case, like the worst thing that happened where people called the venue and said, I disagree with the speaker you've chosen to have in your venue.
Gosh.
And at that point, it's up to the venue to make that decision. So hey, baby, that's free market capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like free speech to me.
Yeah.
I don't think they were fans of that.
Yeah. It's hard for them to understand that anybody choosing voluntarily not to want to associate with them or not to want to purchase their content or, spend money on their ideas is somehow suppressing their free speech. It's like you don't have a right to an audience. You just have a right to say it. And people have a right to react to that, however they react. And if it's walking away from it and saying, no, I don't think you need to be associated with us. They really can't handle that. It's crazy.
Well, and some of this seems like when we're dealing with someone such as Andy No, there's a big disconnect between how popular he is online and how popular he tends to be at any given place. It seems like it is easy to cultivate that audience on the internet when you never have to leave your home. But in real life, it doesn't seem like he's got this big band of supporters. Am I wrong?
Well, based off of the attendance, it looked like maybe 40 people showed up. He claimed hundreds. I can tell you that they didn't, the most generous way that did not reach above 99 people. But, the people that do support him are of positions of power. I've noted that former ICE director Tony Pham was there. There's a couple people that I can't confirm their identities, so I don't want to be wrong on this. But maybe somebody who was big at Regent University. I don't know if you've ever heard of Regent University.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So State Senator Amanda Chase was there as well. She was also with Stuart Rhodes shooting a video on January 5th. So, yeah, weird how that worked out.
Gosh, weird.
But yeah, Andy No seems to be a person that is pushed onto these large audiences and told that we're supposed to enjoy. The algorithm here on the X.com seems to love pushing out his content. I mean, growing up, there was a little newspaper called Gotcha. I don't know if you've ever heard it or heard something similar like this, where it would just print out the mugshots of people who had been arrested locally. He's turned that into an online sensation, but like an international online sensation where you take like these compromising pictures of people. If you've ever been arrested, it is terrible being arrested. And they have the photo at the end. They beat you, like they don't literally beat you down, but like it's an emotional beat down to be like put in handcuffs, taken to a jail, read what your rights are, and like strip naked, and then they take your picture. Yeah, you're gonna look terrible.
Yeah.
And like this is just a collection of all these people in the worst moments of their life. And in Andy No's case, he was showing pictures of people from Richmond who had been arrested. One of them was the student body president of VCU at the time, Taylor Maloney. And like they were arrested along with me. And like our crime was being in a park after sunset, except when we were arrested, we weren't in that park. All of our charges were dropped. But to Andy No, he saw that as the prosecutors and the politicians are siding with the Antifa in their quest to be in parks after sunset.
So what you're telling me is it didn't even make a whole lot of sense, what they were trying to push, that it was one of those Andy has a narrative and he's not going to let the facts get in the way of anything he's out there selling at this point.
Absolutely.
The shadowy cabal is definitely doing something. I guess the details aren't always important, but yeah, why is there such a need for Andy on the right?
Geez, I feel like he's supposed to be like their big research guy, like all of the intel comes from him. And the reason why, he doesn't get wiped out from all these social media sites is that he always because he went to school for journalism. Like he could make good stuff if he wanted, but he knows how to write in sort of like a neutral language, but that will also like excite his crowd. He's smart enough to do things in a way that would cause the most amount of attention.
Right.
And that's sort of his existence, is that he's sort of, what's that show? Entertainment Tonight for the wacky right wingers.
Right. That actually makes a whole lot of sense. You watch the Andy No show and he tells you about all of these things that are supposedly happening, and you're getting all of this from one guy who's a bit of a fabulist and makes things up routinely when he needs to. And boy, that actually explains a lot. Andy No as Entertainment Tonight. Dun, 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 dun. Up next, the Zoomer David Duke, Nicholas J. Fuentes. Duke himself is even a fan.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and open-minded people, wherever you live across the United States of America, Europe, and the world, this is David Duke. And this is the real David Duke. We're going to talk about Nick Fuentes. And it's a subject that I've touched on a number of times on this broadcast and talked about a lot of the things that I really like about what he's doing. I've been not critical of him at all. I don't necessarily agree with every approach he takes or everything he says or everything he does, but I do agree that he is doing good work and he's increasing awareness of all the issues that we talk about here.
Yes, indeed. Nick is picking up the burning cross where old David Duke left off and is doing his best to clan pill a new generation. This guy is absolutely terrible.
Women don't like me. Nobody likes me. I'm a complete loner, completely eccentric, sort of prickly, unlikable, autistic hermit. And that's just the way I am. So I was born a loner, and that wasn't voluntary. I didn't choose to be born, so that was involuntary. So I'm an incel.
In fact, he's so bad, we did an entire episode on his permanent record. Here's some of the highlights from episode 32. Warning, parental discretion advised on this one.
We love Hitler, not in a fucking gay way, okay? We love Hitler in a Christian way, you freak, not in a gay way. Anyway, in like a awesome way, okay? In like a we love Trump way, you fucking liberal.
Well, one thing Fuentes has said on a number of occasions is that he thinks it's actually really weird for people to be as obsessed with Hitler as we are this many years after the fact. He thinks that it's weird that people still care about any of this stuff. And he thinks that we should all just kind of get over it and look at this as just a blip in history. And he thinks that the reason we don't is because the Jews control the media and they keep pushing this narrative so they can maintain control over everyone else. And he doesn't quite understand that systematic annihilation of a population on a scale that Hitler did just isn't something that blips on the radar. This isn't something people are going to get over anytime soon. Every time there's been pogroms like this, every time there's been an attempt to wipe out the majority of a population in an area, this isn't something that washes out real fast. And when they keep the kind of records that they kept, and they keep the kind of documentation that the Nazis kept on what they were doing, and it's that obvious to everyone, people aren't going to forget about this for a while. They're going to essentially use it as an object lesson that hopefully never again. Hopefully we never end up in a situation where anybody can do this again. But guys like Fuentes, they hate the Jews. They absolutely hate the Jews. And they're trying to make it sound like Hitler didn't do anything wrong. He was that strong leader that Germany needed. They emphasize those parts of Hitler as what they think is cool.
Yeah, they think Hitler is based.
Mm-hmm. Based.
He's talked about the videos of Hitler giving his speeches and looking commanding, and they think he's cool. They think it's an ideal to strive towards.
They love the aesthetics.
Yeah, as if you could ever possibly separate Hitler from exterminating the Jews and the gypsies and the mentally ill and the gas chambers and all these things, which they, of course, deny. He's denied the Holocaust. He's disputed the gas chambers.
All of this stuff, they don't believe in any of it, and they joke about it.
Max says, if I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens, working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. Certainly, oh, no. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. The math doesn't quite seem to add up there. I don't think you'd result in 6 million, maybe 200 to 300,000 cookies. And I think the Red Cookie Association said something like that, probably 200 to 300,000 cookies baked, probably. And in addition, you know, in this hypothetical, I imagine that if you took aerial photographs over the kitchens, you would need to see certain smokestacks to release the smoke from baking the cookies. And the smokestacks would project certain shadows, but I guess they're not visible in the aerial photographs taken over the kitchens. Moreover, if you look at the soil texture, it's really not deep enough for mass cookie storage underground. And so there's a lot of things, you know, in the cookie kitchen, they say that the ovens are wooden and they have windows on them and they're not totally secure. And the ovens that they use, they actually did sort of an ad hoc use of that particular kind of oven, even though they made a perfectly good design for ovens for a different purpose, for delousing. I mean, you know, for something else. So none of it really adds up. I don't know. It just kind of doesn't really make sense, this crazy cookie analogy. You have to be, that's sort of an esoteric story. That's from Cookie Right. You wouldn't understand that if you're just sort of passing through, if you're just a normie. So 6 million cookies, I don't buy it. That's all irony. I'm an irony bro. That's all irony. You know, I love and respect everyone. Everything that the government says is true.
Fuentes has made plenty of jokes about this over his career. Like, he thinks it's funny, or he thinks he wants to get these talking points out there by using irony that he can then later walk back and say, oh yeah, no, bro, I was joking. It's all just a joke.
Yeah. And more he's stopped pretending with that. He's still doing it. He's still, oh, I didn't mean it, but it's also, I didn't mean it. Wink, wink. It's not like he said all the terrible things, and it's all out there and it's not going away. I think he was annoyed. He was specifically annoyed that I repeated that part about him saying Israel did 9/11, because I think it may have been the first time he's actually said that, which now is his permanent record, is talking about that. It's not like he's the first person that's gone there with that conspiracy theory. It's one that's been pushed since 9/11 happened, and it is all the same anti-Semitism that we've come across again and again.
Can you believe it? And after all that, he still ended up having dinner with presumptive GOP nominee Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. What a world, right? Fuentes would later go on one of the most prominent manosphere podcasts to discuss the JQ, or Jewish question, with the hosts. We did an episode about this with researcher Daniel Schwartz. This is from episode 79. We're joined today by Daniel Schwartz. He is a far-right researcher and host of the podcast Public Research with Daniel Schwartz. We're going to be talking a bit about Nick Fuentes going on the Fresh and Fit podcast recently to have a purported debate. Daniel, welcome to the show, and well, at first glance, this match doesn't make much sense.
It doesn't. I mean, that's part of the reason I've quibbled sort of with the description of Fuentes as white nationalist, not because it's not true. The way I describe Fuentes is his life goal is to lead pogroms against Jews.
Hard to argue that.
But he's okay having a few brown faces in the mob.
I was really reminded of that famous photo from the Nation of Islam rally with George Lincoln Rockwell and his lieutenants sitting in the front row with their arms crossed. That's really what that podcast reminded me of watching it. Kind of like, we don't agree on everything, but we agree on one thing, and that's somebody needs to do something about the Jews. That's definitely the vibe I got out of Nick on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we look at the Fresh and Fit podcast, and its name tells you what it is, right? It's supposed to be about health and fitness, and it's a couple guys named Walter Weeks and Myron Gaines, and you listen to the description of the show, and we're the #1 men's self-improvement podcast in the world. We provide the truth to men on females, finances, and fitness. And yet here they are with this incredibly anti-Semitic Holocaust denier named Nick Fuentes, and they're letting him have this debate. And even in the title of the show, they admit that they're talking about the Jewish question. You pointed out that they actually tweeted about it. They're proud of the fact that they're talking about the Jewish question, and they're even a little mad that Joe Rogan isn't doing this himself. And I guess first we should explain what the Jewish question is and why it's a problem. But we also want to talk about, how do these worlds converge like this? Let's actually define the Jewish question so there's no ambiguity here.
So the idea of the Jewish question starts with the premise that the Jews are a problem for society. And the Jewish question comes down to, how do we handle that problem? The idea of, what do we do with the Jews? That's literally what people are asking when they ask that question. What do we do with the Jews? And the responses have ranged anything from put them all on their own island somewhere to, the Hitler solution. So when they talk about the Jewish question on this show, they're literally saying the Jews are a societal cancer. What do we do to get rid of the Jews? That's what they're saying. What do we do to make the Jews not a problem for society anymore? So that's about the most anti-Semitic thing I can think of off the top of my head in terms of what you could possibly say to get that idea out there. And the idea that they're just laughing, that this is just funny for them. It's just repulsive.
Should we or should we not have a debate about whether we should genocide an entire group of people?
That's the question.
Yeah, let's have a debate about that. Really? You want to debate whether we need another Holocaust?
Right.
I think any sane person, you go up to them and explain it in those terms. Hey, you want to go talk to this guy? He thinks we should murder every Jew. Do you want to go have a debate with him? How do you debate that? How do you debate insanity?
How do you debate an entire group's right to exist? We actually ended up making a new friend ourselves as a result of Nick Fuentes. Game designer Luc Bernard came on the show to discuss the Holocaust Museum he built in Fortnite and the bedwetting amongst Little Nicker and his fans as a result, from episode 93. Let's talk a little bit about how we met on Twitter. It was entirely by chance, but we happened to find some common cause fighting with Nick Fuentes and his groypers online. Twitter let Fuentes keep his ban evasion account up for 4 days, despite the policy on Twitter saying they don't allow ban evasion accounts. How were you personally able to force them to act on this?
Well, so I didn't actually have any clue, because I know Fuentes had posted about my work on his Telegram a couple of days prior. I wasn't entirely aware where it's all coming from until like Jay and some other people were like, this is Fuentes, pretty much. This is his account. And then when his account kind of got locked for like 12 hours and he just posted on his Telegram, and it was growing to up to 12,000. So the problem which I saw was, so Twitter wasn't aware, or X, I'm just still going to quote Twitter. Yeah. They just weren't aware that they were.
Right.
And the problem was, the organizations who are meant to be aware of these things were not even aware either, even if it was making international news. Like, I was actually having friends in France just sending me like the TV and basically being like, why are you on TV fighting with Nazis? What the hell is going on, Luke? Like, people from the countryside that have no clue even about the work I do. And they're just like, what have you done? And I was even on CNN Turkey. It was that bloody ridiculous about the whole thing.
I saw a New York Times reporter reach out to you. I don't know if you got in contact with him, but it really was everywhere.
Oh yeah,
New York Times even did articles, so it exploded everywhere. It did.
Nick Fuentes certainly is a piece of work, and while he missed out on the big prize this year, he's still very young. So unfortunately, he'll probably be around for a while.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. And,
whenever I see that stuff, it just makes me want to proclaim louder and more firmly and more rigidly that it is nothing other than Jesus Christ. No pagan stuff, no false gods, no deities, no demons. It is Jesus Christ. And we need to start saying that name more. I feel like I haven't said his name enough on the show lately. But that is what breaks the spell. It's the name. It's the name Jesus. Talk about it. Say it. Pray to him. Talk about the sacrifice on the cross. That's the answer. Because so many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. And I'm far more concerned about that than I am about even non-white people or mass migration. These people that are communing with demons and engaging in this sort of witchcraft and stuff, and these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. I'm not calling for political violence, but that cannot have any quarter in our society. And we need to put up a crucifix in every home, in every room, in every school, and every government office to signal Christ's reign over our country. Not that God needs it, but it must be outwardly expressed from the interior that this is God's country. This is Jesus' country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
We can only hope he finds Jesus or something. This next nominee really gave it the old Trinity College try. Indeed, if he managed to keep his job as television's #1 primetime great replacement promoter, there's a good chance he takes the top slot as this year's 2023 did nothing wrong person who did the most nothing wrong. Unfortunately for him, but fortunately for everyone else, he was fired on April 23rd, 2023, from episode 57.
Yeah, the big news. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News quite suddenly, and apparently without any warning whatsoever. Well, he got a little warning. Early reports say that Fox News let him know he was fired 10 minutes before they announced it to the press. 10 whole minutes.
Oh, that's awesome. 10 minutes.
His coffee was almost done brewing.
Hey, why don't you come in here? We can have a little pre-show meeting. I'm sure that's probably about how it went. Can you imagine? Like, this is the guy who's known for having that, like, very confused look on his face during the broadcast. I want to know if he got that confused look on his face when he got fired. Huh?
This is why we need video.
I know.
Yeah. And I think it was pretty obvious to us in the moment because he didn't have any sort of bullshit narrative already out there and pre-prepared and ready to go. The right didn't immediately say, Rupert Murdoch was found in a Chinese whorehouse and the place was owned by George Soros and Bill Gates, and Klaus Schwab was running security, and Big Pharma sponsored the cocktails or whatever. I mean, they're something. The Ukrainian Hunter Biden, the laptop did it. I don't know.
There just wasn't anything. They were just quiet. The only people that had it at first were, the big mainstream journalists on Twitter. And at first it didn't seem like anybody wanted to believe it. Like everybody I saw it first and was kind of, I think it was Oliver Darcy where I saw it. And I was kind of like, wait, what?
Are you sure?
Is this really him? We've had some problems with some check marks and some, lack of verification here lately. So I'm going to make sure you're the real guy from CNN. Oh my God, you are. And you ran with this. So it's probably true, but we should see some other sources. And after it starts coming in, it was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
This is amazing. There's no statement from Tucker. There's no spin. Guys like Charlie Kirk are just reporting it. They're not offering any commentary at all. Just Tucker is out.
Yeah, and they're all kind of searching for their hot takes and what's our narrative here? What are we saying? Who are we blaming this on? Who is responsible? Who does MAGA need to direct all their hate mail and mean tweets to?
There was a solid hour where they had no idea what to do. It was very clear. They just didn't know.
Yeah, and that is how we know, and that is how it's obvious that they didn't see this coming. And I'm sure that's why Fox did it the way that they did it, because if you give Tucker if you give that guy an hour, even 3 hours may as well be 3 weeks in traditional media.
20 minutes probably would have been enough. Yeah.
He can text a few people, call a couple guys, and then the whole social media sphere knows where they're going and knows how they're spinning it. And he would have had something else lined up, something else. I'm going to be on Rumble, or I'm going to partner with whomever, and I'm going to go on Steve Bannon's show, or you saw my poll with where should Tucker go next. He would have been on one of those 4 options. And I believe the 4 options were Bannon's show, Alex Jones and InfoWars, Nick Fuentes and America First, and Russia Today. And I think far and away Russia Today is winning for the next logical step for Tucker.
Well, he's already on the daily shows in Russia from clips. I mean, they might as well just go all the way and put the real guy on. Might as well. They'd show enough of his clips anyway. I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah, just pay him directly at this point.
Yeah, forget the tape delay. You could file FARA on that. You could just file a FARA and you'd be okay, right? Right?
I would love to know how many different clips and how many times he's commented on people who have filed FARA. Yeah, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. How many different foreign agents has Tucker criticized and called out on his show? But again, and we've talked about this repeatedly, but I'll say it once more, the hypocrisy is not the point. They don't care. He would do it anyway. If Tucker thinks he can get ahead by being a registered foreign agent of Luxembourg or Russia or New Zealand or whatever it is, he'll do it because they don't care if they're hypocrites, and you can gotcha these people all day, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect them. They've got a story to sell, unless they don't. And in this case, they didn't, because they weren't prepared.
Nothing. Now he streams his white nationalist propaganda from his basement, just like most of the rest of the white nationalist streamers, except Fuentes, who streams his from his mom's basement. From this prestigious temple of journalism, he went on to interview such luminaries as Top G and alleged sex trafficker Andrew Tate. This is from episode 78.
Speaking of ex-Fox employees, Tucker Carlson is doing some really bold and courageous journalism.
Just stunning and brave that guy is.
Yeah, he's free from the shackles of his corporate masters at Fox, and he can just cover the topics that the people really want to know about. He can even go where a guy like Joe Rogan is afraid to go. He's so tough. He's so alpha.
Uh-huh.
He's willing to travel all the way to Romania just so he can give a voice to the voiceless and bring the censored man, the Top G himself, Mr. Andrew Cobra Tate, an interview.
Wow. The man is just a regular Edward R. Murrow, a titan of journalism, going all the way to Romania in pursuit of the truth. And why do you have to go to Romania again?
Because it seems, just looking at my notes here. Oh, yes. Andrew Tate can't leave his house. Or if he does, well, he has to go back to jail. And I'm pretty sure they're monitoring that with a little device on his ankle. Yeah, remember, he's been charged with rape, human trafficking, which has been upgraded to human trafficking in a continued form, and forming an organized crime group to exploit women sexually. Needless to say, these are very serious charges, and he's looking at a long stay in prison, maybe even decades behind bars if he's convicted.
But that's not what Tucker said he was charged with. Tucker literally said the following.
Well, the fact that you're not accused of a sex crime or of violence, which I think most people don't really understand. And they can look it up. I mean, but you're not actually accused of rape, selling anyone, pimping. Okay. That right there raises a lot of questions.
Well, the simple answer here is that Tucker's full of shit. Yeah. Yeah, never let the accused tell you what they're accused of or charged with. They're going to lie.
This is the old rule about don't believe them unless they're under oath. And even then.
Exactly. Anybody can tweet anything. Anybody can say anything. Yeah, according to a June 20th, 2023 press release by Romania's Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism, 4 people, including Andrew and his brother Tristan Tate, were charged with constituting an organized criminal group, human trafficking, and rape. While the press release does not specify which defendant was charged with rape, court documents and an official from the prosecutor's office confirm it was Andrew Tate.
Wow, that is not at all what Tucker just said in there. So
Tucker Carlson lied? Oh my God.
Wow. Courageous and stunning and brave, that guy. Recently, he decided to invite his friend, the always credible and esteemed Alex Sucky Jones, to come hang out in the basement and tell stories, which we're sure are totally true, about President Biden's behavior in the White House. Take a listen.
The deep state does kill people. And that's their only next move because this is failing. And I think they're going to kill Biden too. Or I think they're going to try to, what you said in the speech again before the last one I talked about like a month ago, you said, I don't see Biden and Trump being the candidates. You see the system, the media going after Biden, and he deserves it, but they were covering it up until now. Now they're covering the laptop. Now they're covering attack on the dog. Now they're covering, all of his senility, all the corruption, the Chinese spies.
Attacking a dog. What a pig he is. I'm sorry.
Well, I was told that by Secret Service and by people that, let's just say, work with them. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I actually have a contact for you. I'd like to be able to hear it from them. But when this is over, I'll let you actually hear it from yourself. I think they'll tell you off record. I think they're willing to talk to you. But yeah, he is completely out of his mind. He wanders around for the entire 2.5 years. It's getting worse. Naked in the White House. In the middle of the night, doesn't know who he is. They have to give him a bunch of drugs, a bunch of amphetamines in the morning. Then they've got to drug him at night. Sometimes he'll be out for the morning for a while, and then he comes back out at night for a ball. That's when there's a real problem.
He is on drugs. I have established that. And I know someone who witnessed it. I'm not guessing at this. I know someone personally who witnessed him taking amphetamines. And this was during the 2020 election.
Part of the reason this guy has such a strong case is because it's all an act. Tucker does this for the cameras, as we found out when his texts with said friend Alex Jones got released as part of discovery in Jones's trial over his incessant exploitation of the tragedy at Sandy Hook. We covered that disgusting mess in episode 29. Take a listen. What I really find interesting about that article is the first paragraph of the Huffington Post article, and I'm going to quote it here. In early March 2020, as the coronavirus pandemic began its onslaught across the country, Fox News host Tucker Carlson drove to then-President Donald Trump's Florida resort to warn him to take the virus more seriously. People you know will get sick, Carlson said on his show later that night after visiting Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Some may die. This is real. That's the point of this script, to tell you that. This surprising warning was noticed by Alex Jones, a far-right conspiracy theorist better known for spreading lies about the parents of dead children and hawking overpriced supplements on his platform. Jones texted Carlson a link on March 16, 2020, to a now-deleted InfoWars article called Tucker Carlson Drove to Mar-a-Lago to Warn Trump That Coronavirus Was a Real Threat. The subhead read, Fox News Host Saves America. I tried, man, Carlson texted Jones back, according to a record of their conversation obtained by the Huffington Post. Yet, by the following month, as Trump continued to minimize the seriousness of the virus, the two right-wing media personalities appeared to follow the president's lead, texting conspiracy theories with each other that downplayed the threat, even as thousands of Americans were dying daily. So here's these two guys that probably between them have a lot of blood on their hands when it comes to our response to the coronavirus, how much pushback we had, how many people just refused to take it seriously, helped spread it, died as a result of this. They knew what they were doing from the jump, and yet they just went ahead and kayfabed their way through the day at that point because Trump, for whatever reason, didn't want to go along with this. They were just totally fine with, okay, well, we know what the right thing to do is here, but it's not going to make us any money. So let's just go ahead and get on board with the party line. And that's just so reprehensible that, fuck. Needless to say, when Trump found out about how Tucker really felt, he called him on the metaphorical carpet and made him lick the boot and bend the knee. We covered this in episode 54.
Well, Donald Trump, as he does, decided to wade into all sorts of bizarre discussions in an exclusive interview with Tucker Carlson. Exclusive! The first interview Trump has given since his arraignment in a Manhattan court over the 34-count felony indictment laid out against him. As several commentators pointed out, it was a thoroughly humiliating experience for Tucker.
But we kind of expected this for Tucker. He apparently remains loyal to Donald Trump, despite what we saw in the leaked messages that came out thanks to the Dominion Voting Systems lawsuit against Fox News. You may recall in one exchange, as Summer Concepcion reported for NBC News on January 4th, 2021, Tucker wrote, quote, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait." Adding later, quote, "I hate him passionately. I can't handle much more of this."
Know that feel, dog?
Yeah, welcome to the resistance, Tucker Carlson.
Well, it's funny, though, how many of them say this. Because we had the same sort of leak from Alex Jones a while back that Michael Edison Hayden reported on at SPLC. So it is funny how much the people who really need Trump and simp so hard for Trump come back. Because, yeah, apparently Tucker hates being irrelevant more than he hates Donald Trump, because he's been finding excuses to support him and repeat the latest MAGA messaging night after night after night for months now. Tucker now claims that his comments about Trump were just in the heat of the moment. He was venting and letting off some steam, and he didn't really mean it. He even said, quote, "I love Trump," unquote, in response to all of this.
It seems like Trump is willing to forgive him, but we're currently in the groveling stage of this forgiveness. This is a long-running pattern with Trump. He'll forgive just about anyone as long as they submit to his will and kiss the ring enough times. For whatever reason, Tucker's doing this, and it was just downright humiliating for him. Trump barely let him speak and made frequent criticisms of Tucker personally during what turned out to be more of a soapbox monologue by Trump than an actual interview.
And as funny as that humiliation was, there was a particularly dark point of the interview, for me anyway. And it's when Trump told Tucker who the real enemy of America was.
I often say, they said to me the other day, one of your fellow journalists said, who's the biggest problem, sir? Is it China? Could it be Russia? Could it be North Korea? No, I said, the biggest problem is from within. It's these sick, radical people from within, because we can handle, if we're smart, we can handle Russia, China. I did.
This is just so unbelievably bad and dangerous. The biggest problem we're facing in the United States isn't Russia or China or North Korea or any other foreign threat. It's not corruption or income inequality or gun violence or Citizens United or racism or pick a million other things. No, according to Donald Trump, the biggest problem that American citizens face is not liking him. It's Democrats, the deep state, the fake news media.
The Soros-funded Antifa communist prosecutors who hate America almost as much as they hate your favorite president, Donald J. Trump. He evidently groveled hard enough to get back on the Trump train, because he's not one of those sick, radical people when it really comes down to it. Tucker's a good boy. These are all worthy nominees, and every single person on this list contributed to the enshittification of your information environment in a big way. But none of this would have been possible without the consent and encouragement of 2023's Did Nothing Wrong's person who did the most nothing wrong. The envelope, please. Your 2023 Did Nothing Wrong's person who did the most nothing wrong is Elon Musk. The guy was a 365-day walking garbage fire. He did so much nothing wrong, we probably could have done a daily episode on the guy until our brains melted into a nice smooth puddle. So, here's a few of the highlights. Elon started the year buying Twitter for $44 billion, and he came out of the gate hot with a real new sheriff in town mentality. One of the first things this free speech champion did was to start suspending anyone who so much as reported on his whereabouts. He even suspended Jay briefly. In episode 19, we talk about the utter hypocrisy involved. Elon Musk is throwing a tantrum over on Twitter.com. It started late Thursday night, the 15th of December, when he contradicted his previous statements about free speech by permanently suspending the Elon Jet account, and then rapidly suspended other accounts who posted in support of the account, or, like Donnie O'Sullivan of CNN, attempted to fact-check his claims that the account put his life in danger. One of the accounts caught up in the Mad King's wrath was our own Jay McKenzie. Jay was first informed that his account was locked for supposedly posting private information, and then shortly thereafter, he was informed that the account was permanently suspended for platform manipulation. Jay, since they can't seem to give you a straight answer, what's your best guess as to what happened?
It's just not clear. I know there were a bunch of journalists who were suspended yesterday. I think they were all suspended maybe a couple hours before I was. And there's sort of this vague sense that it was all related to Elon's jet. Elon has changed the terms of service for Twitter, and it just changed from, let's see, today is the 16th. It changed 2 days ago, sometime between December 14th and 15th. The violations on private information and media policy were suddenly updated. There was no announcement. There was no warning. Presumably, this was done before Elon tweeted, but it also could have been done after Elon tweeted some random things that popped into his head. And who actually edited the terms of service page? Was it Elon? How many people are left at Twitter? And it's hard to say. Maybe he sent a tweet and then he went on over and edited the page and added some new information. So without warning, without any sort of clear directive or message or, hey, everyone, let's have a press release about our changes. Suddenly it changed overnight. And then accounts that, well, the Elon Jet account, the account that was an automated account that used publicly available information to track Elon Musk's private jet. That account was suspended. And then the owner of the account, Jack Sweeney, was suspended. And then all of his other plane tracking accounts were also suspended on Twitter. And then all these journalists who talked about Jack Sweeney and his Elon Jet account getting suspended, all those journalists who talked about it got suspended. Or at least some of them did. It's not entirely clear. And once again, I know you're shocked, but Elon is
absolutely
he's not being transparent about what they did. And even one of his kind of toadies on Twitter was saying, "Oh, so far this is Mike Solana. It's at MICSOLANA on Twitter. Said so far I've been able to confirm about half the accounts suspended." Posted links to the jet tracker thing in violation of the new doxing policy. Unclear just yet about the rest, but I think it's safe to say the rule is for real.
Ooh. And you best not follow the rules.
Yeah. He sounds like a free thinker who's not just doing whatever Daddy Elon says. And then, of course, Elon replies and say, hey, he said, same doxing rules apply to journalists, quote unquote, as everyone else. They posted my exact real-time location, basically assassination coordinates, in an obvious direct violation of Twitter terms of service. In obvious direct violation of the Twitter terms of service that had been changed less than 24 hours with no statement, no press release, no warning. But it's, of course, it's obvious. Isn't it obvious?
Obvious. You should check the terms of service before you post every single time, just in case. I mean, we're going to have to now. We're going to have to get a bot or something that re-updates the Twitter terms of service because
everyone reads their Apple, Microsoft, you read the full thing, right?
Absolutely, down to the last line about jurisdiction and venue in case of, yeah.
Well, because you wouldn't want to end up like me and just be unpersoned. I'm not even sure I exist. I told my wife I might have to sixth censor over here because I'm just not sure. I'm really not sure if I'm still here.
I see dead people. He had some new ideas for how he wanted things to run. One of which was paying creators for engagement. Now, none of it had to be real or accurate, so you can probably guess just what kind of content it incentivized. We covered that in episode LXXXVIII. Take a listen.
It's a shit show. And Elon Musk, as far as Twitter, still want to call it Twitter because it's Twitter. He's paying these people to post bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
They are posting utter fucking nonsense because that is what goes viral on Twitter. That is what gets retweeted. And that is what gets the most eyeballs. And what gets you paid on Twitter is eyeballs, is engagement, is people saw this tweet. Doesn't matter if they're real people.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you get your money. So these people went fucking crazy. They're literally getting paid to lie.
Yeah. And it becomes this just completely useless platform where at one point it was the absolute best way to keep up on breaking news. There was nothing comparable to it. But once you have incentivized lying, which they have, you get X number of impressions, you get X number of dollars. And as long as you give Elon that $8 a month for his VIG, then you are up for getting a shot of that money every month. So it's become just this absolute nightmare. We're starting to see the disinformation, the fact checkers getting just overwhelmed with this stuff because there's just too much of it. You can't keep up on it. You can't keep track of it.
Well, and it's so demoralizing because it at a certain point, it's like, well, why am I? Because nobody's doing anything. Nobody cares. And anybody who does care can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the point, doesn't it? I mean, he's doing so many things. Like to get paid by Twitter, well, you have to sign up for Twitter Blue X Premium, as he's now calling it, which is, again, worse because everything about this rebrand is worse. But he's advertising it as essentially, if you pay for Twitter Blue, it's going to be free because the money's going to be sent back to you in your engagement. Like you post a little bit every month, you're going to get it back. So one, again, just complete and utter failure of the business model. Not only can you now hide your blue check because it is a mark of shame, Twitter Blue, he's now marketing it as free, but it's worth it to him because he hates reporters. He hates anyone that's interested in the truth. He wants to devalue anyone who could continue to make him look like the shitty person, the ignorant fool that he is, who is pretending like he's going to beat up Mark Zuckerberg, but he, God, this man, Mark Zuckerberg 5 years ago was one of the most hated men in America, easily top 5. But Elon Musk, gotta hand it to him. He is the best PR officer Meta, Facebook could ever hire, could ever dream of having come into their lives.
Because that's what happened. He ends up making Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook guy, look good.
The robot.
And you got to do something really, really, really special for the world to be rooting for Mark Zuckerberg to beat you up.
And I kind of am on Zuckerberg's side. I know he's a terrible person. I know the terrible things that he's done for local news, and he downplayed all the Russian influence and operations in 2016. He stonewalled Congress. He wouldn't step up and ban people until the very last minute. He's always only acted at the very last minute to deal with misinformation and all the various problems that have come across that platform.
Yeah, dude sucks. He is terrible.
And yet, dude, he's fucking terrible. But you still find yourself kind of rooting for him because Elon is that shitty of a person.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the most harebrained things Elon did this year was a running series that he called The Twitter Files. Only he was supposedly not involved at all, beyond giving access to Twitter's internal documents to friendly journalists such as Matt Taibbi, Bari Weiss, Michael Schellenberger, and Li Fang. He claimed these documents were irrefutable proof that Twitter had shown bias against conservatives, specifically in the run-up to the 2020 election. But the consensus seemed to be that all it really showed was that Twitter's content moderation team had some tough calls to make and that they made them. Needless to say, Elon wasn't happy that his narrative didn't catch on, and he got real mad at Matt Taibbi about it. This is from episode 53.
Taibbi posted the Twitter files directly onto Twitter in Threads, and it was painfully obvious from day one that he didn't have an editor, even though he really, really needed one.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing was odd. It was kind of the thread popped up out of nowhere, and he was posting in random increments. At first, they were really quick succession of tweets, and clearly he had at least started to write out the thread before he started it. But at some point into the thread, it started taking longer and longer for each tweet to go out. So yeah, he really could have used an editor beforehand, but it all felt rushed. It's all felt really rushed, and the conclusions don't really match the claims. But these posts, even the inaccurate ones, have stayed up anyway because they serve their purpose. Jim Jordan and the House GOP got to weaponize the information. Elon Musk was happy with Taibbi and his quote-unquote reporting until Matt fell even slightly out of line. Then Musk unfollowed Taibbi and posted their private messages on Twitter, and thus, in a way, creating a whole new episode of the Twitter Files.
Taibbi also posted the original Twitter files directly to Twitter because Elon Musk told him he had to if he wanted the data to write them from Twitter. Taibbi also said that he agreed to tell anyone who asked that he got the Twitter data from, quote, sources at Twitter. All indications are that the so-called, quote, sources at Twitter and Taibbi worked very closely on this one.
Yes, sources at Twitter, which just so happened to appear after Elon Musk spent $44 billion to purchase the platform. And oh, by the way, Taibbi and Musk have had multiple conversations since he purchased the platform. Taibbi also admitted they talked about the Twitter files at least once in an interview he did with Russell Brand last December. Just the other day, Musk tweeted and then deleted their private communications on Signal, which, as we know, is an encrypted app that allows you to delete messages on a timer or at will.
Convenient if you're looking to hide the PR work you're doing for the world's formerly richest man. But don't worry, it won't happen again. Here's Sheriff Elon telling Jack Posobiec that he'll go to jail over another Hunter laptop situation.
The FBI, the DHS, et cetera, if they reach out to X, I believe they called it defensive briefings in 2020, regarding which eventually culminated in the censorship of Hunter Biden. If they started reaching out again, would that be something that you or the team, and no, I can understand if you don't want to answer now, but you would consider making public?
We will be as transparent as possible with that, and frankly, if I think a government agency is breaking the law in their demands on the platform, I would be prepared to go to prison personally if I think they are the ones breaking the law.
And he won't be, quote, blackmailed with money, unquote, as he puts it.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob.
That's right, advertisers. You can't influence this guy with your filthy money, so don't even try. Especially not you, Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, you peasant, you pleb. Folks, that's based. Way too based to care about your advertisers. This is a whole new level of based here. This guy is so based, he's lighting $44 billion on fire, along with the entire world's information environment, to prove just how based he is. It is impossible to understate just how based a move that was. Even Alex Jones was impressed.
But I think as more evidence came out, he made that bold move because it's really a fuck you. Just like he said a few weeks ago at the New York Times, that these people there's never enough censorship. You never can bend enough to them. You never can compromise with them. They never compromise with us. So you finally reach that, well, fuck you moment. Fuck yourself moment. Go fuck yourself. And so I think that's the shot heard around the world. I think that was the final tipping point when the tide completely turned. When Elon Musk said, go fuck yourself, you can mark that day as a shot heard around the world in the info war, and when we turn the tide.
This is why, among many other reasons, Elon Musk is the 2023 Did Nothing Wrong's person who did the most nothing wrong. Thanks for listening and supporting the show this year. It means more than I can say. Next year is going to be insane, so make sure you tune in and we'll continue to help you make sense of the crazy. Take care and Happy New Year from the Did Nothing Wrong podcast. Thanks for listening to the Did Nothing Wrong podcast. If you want to hear more, you can find us on the web at didnothingwrongpod.com. Please make sure you subscribe to get our content straight into your inbox. You can also follow us on Twitter at GrizaBJJ, GRZABJJ, as well as DNWPod. We're extremely grateful for paid subscriptions and donations that allow us to keep doing this important work. Thanks, and remember, everyone mentioned did nothing wrong.